On the final night of the 2015 summer transfer window, millions of football fans across the world were glued to their screens. Transfer deadline day is always a circus. Rumors flying, cameras outside training grounds, journalists camping in airports. Yet, on this night, there was one story above all others. David De Gea, the Spanish goalkeeper who had become Manchester United's most reliable player, was expected to return home to join Real Madrid. His bags were metaphorically packed, the swap deal with Keylor Navas agreed, and the paperwork ready to be submitted. But when the clock struck midnight in Spain, the entire deal collapsed. The reason? According to legend, a fax machine had failed. In an era when football moved billions of dollars, when technology was advancing at lightning speed, the destiny of one of the world's best goalkeepers came down to outdated office equipment. It sounded like a joke, but it was no laughing matter. This was the night that changed David De Gea's career forever, and perhaps altered the course of Manchester United and Real Madrid. This is the story of the transfer that never happened, a saga of broken machines, broken trust, and the razor-thin margins that define football history. David De Gea was born in Madrid in 1990, the son of a professional goalkeeper who once played in Spain's lower divisions. From an early age, he was immersed in football, training rigorously and showing natural reflexes that stood out even among talented peers. At 13, he joined Atletico Madrid's academy. By 18, he was already making his professional debut. His rise was rapid. By 2010, after just one season as Atletico's number one, he had helped them win the UEFA Europa League. His agility, composure, and almost uncanny ability to stretch across the goal made him one of Europe's brightest prospects. In 2011, Manchester United, then under Sir Alex Ferguson, signed him for $18.9 million. At the time, it was a record fee for a goalkeeper in British football. The start was rocky. De Gea struggled with the physical demands of the Premier League, criticised for errors on crosses and lacking strength in aerial duels. The British tabloids were merciless, questioning Ferguson's decision. But Ferguson had an eye for talent. He stuck with the young Spaniard, and De Gea adapted. By 2013, he was essential to United's title-winning squad, making crucial saves that reminded fans of Peter Schmeichel and Edwin van der Sar. When Ferguson retired in 2013, Manchester United entered a turbulent era. Under David Moyes and then Louis van Gaal, the team faltered, slipping out of title contention. But in those years of instability, De Gea was the constant. In 2013-14 and 2014-15, he was voted Manchester United's Player of the Year, the first goalkeeper ever to win the Sir Matt Busby Award, back-to-back. For supporters, De Gea was not just a goalkeeper. He was the club's last line of defense, the man who saved them from humiliation. At the same time, in Spain, another story was unfolding. Iker Casillas, Real Madrid's iconic captain, was nearing the end of his career at the Bernabeu. Casillas had been a hero of Spain's golden era, World Cup winner, European champion, and three-time Champions League winner. But his form had dipped, and his relationship with the club soured. By 2015, Real Madrid had decided to part ways with their captain. Casillas left for Porto, leaving a gaping hole in Madrid's goal. For many fans, the solution was obvious: bring home David De Gea. He was Madrid-born, at the peak of his career, and already Spain's starting goalkeeper. To replace Casillas with De Gea was not just logical, it felt symbolic, the passing of the torch from one generation to the next. For De Gea, the timing was perfect. He had 1 year left on his contract at Manchester United, and he had not agreed to an extension. The rumors were constant. Spanish papers ran headlines almost daily. De Gea to Madrid, imminent. For Real Madrid, the opportunity to sign the best Spanish goalkeeper since Casillas was irresistible. For Manchester United, the fear of losing him for free in 2016 loomed large. And so, the stage was set for a transfer that seemed inevitable. The drama peaked on August 31st, 2015. All day long, journalists reported updates by the hour. Negotiations between Real Madrid and Manchester United dragged into the night. The deal on the table was clear. David De Gea would join Real Madrid, while Keylor Navas, then Madrid's goalkeeper, would move to Manchester United. The transfer fee was agreed at around 30 million, and personal terms with both players were settled. By evening, the news was everywhere. Spanish TV stations broadcast footage of fans gathering at the Santiago Bernabeu, chanting De Gea's name. In England, Manchester United supporters debated what his departure would mean. Would the club collapse without their star goalkeeper? Would Navas be enough to replace him? It was deadline day at its most dramatic. At around 10 p.m. Spanish time, Real Madrid claimed they sent the final documents to Manchester United. By their account, the paperwork reached United at 11:39 p.m. For a deal to be official, the Spanish League's registration office, La Liga, needed the contracts uploaded into the FIFA Transfer Matching System, TMS, by midnight. Real Madrid insisted United delayed, taking too long to respond. Manchester United, on the other hand, said they moved quickly, but Real Madrid failed to submit their end in time. By 12:02 a.m., when the last documents were sent back, the window had officially closed. La Liga rejected the transfer. The deal was dead. The football world exploded with confusion. Within hours, Spanish media reported a bizarre explanation that the fax machine used to send the paperwork had malfunctioned. A multi-million euro transfer had collapsed because of outdated technology. On social media, fans mocked the saga with memes of broken fax machines and office clerks asleep at their desks. The idea that such a trivial error could derail one of the biggest transfers of the decade seemed surreal. Real Madrid quickly released an official statement, laying out a minute-by-minute timeline of their actions. They accused Manchester United of deliberately stalling, suggesting United never wanted to sell De Gea and had dragged their feet to ensure the deadline passed. Manchester United fired back, publishing their own timeline. They argued that they had uploaded the documents in time and that Real Madrid had failed to complete their end of the process. Both clubs presented evidence, but the truth was impossible to verify. What was clear was that David De Gea remained a Manchester United player and Keylor Navas stayed at Real Madrid. The fallout was intense. De Gea, who had already prepared to return to Madrid, was reportedly distraught. He had said his goodbyes privately and was ready to start a new chapter. Now, he faced an awkward return to Old Trafford, where fans questioned his loyalty. For a few weeks, the relationship seemed strained, but football moves fast, and within days, United offered him a new 4-year contract. De Gea accepted. The transfer that never happened had, ironically, secured his place at Manchester United for years to come. Behind the headlines, the story was even more complex. Louis van Gaal's relationship with De Gea had soured during the summer. Van Gaal, a strict disciplinarian, was frustrated with De Gea's refusal to commit to a new contract. In a preseason match, when De Gea made an error, Van Gaal publicly questioned whether his goalkeeper was mentally prepared. This added fuel to the rumors that De Gea wanted out. Manchester United's executives faced a dilemma. On one hand, selling De Gea to Real Madrid risked weakening the squad at a time when the club was already struggling. On the other, losing him for free in 2016 would be a disaster financially. The swap deal with Keylor Navas seemed like a reasonable compromise. But did United truly want Navas? Some insiders later suggested United were not convinced he was the right replacement. The theory goes that United deliberately slowed down the process, knowing that if the deal collapsed, De Gea would have no choice but to stay. Real Madrid's motives were also questioned. Florentino Perez wanted De Gea, but some Madrid journalists argued the pursuit was half-hearted. They suggested Madrid may have been content to let the deal collapse, knowing they could sign De Gea in the future for free. By blaming United for the failure, Madrid could present themselves as victims while keeping their options open. The fax machine story itself was never fully clarified. FIFA's transfer matching system did not actually require a fax. It was an electronic platform. The suggestion that the entire saga hinged on a malfunctioning machine may have been a simplification by the media, or perhaps a convenient scapegoat. What is certain is that both clubs had reasons to let the deal collapse, and both used the confusion to shield themselves from criticism. The immediate impact was dramatic. De Gea signed a new contract with Manchester United, committing his future to the club. Over the next few seasons, he would produce some of the most extraordinary performances ever seen in the Premier League. In 2017-18, his saves against Arsenal at the Emirates and against Tottenham at Wembley became instant classics. He was named in the PFA Team of the Year multiple times and became a four-time winner of the Sir Matt Busby Player of the Year award, more than any other United player in history. For Manchester United, keeping De Gea was crucial. While the team failed to reach the heights of the Ferguson era, De Gea's brilliance gave them stability. He became the face of the club during a difficult rebuild. Without him, it is easy to imagine United slipping even further down the table. For Real Madrid, the embarrassment lingered. They eventually turned to Thibaut Courtois in 2018, signing the Belgian from Chelsea. Courtois became a cornerstone of their new era, helping Madrid win La Liga and the Champions League. In hindsight, Courtois may have been a better fit than De Gea, especially in a system that valued goalkeepers' ability with the ball at their feet. But the fax machine saga remains a stain on Madrid's reputation, a symbol of bureaucracy and mismanagement. Beyond the clubs, the saga had wider effects. FIFA and national federations faced ridicule for allowing paperwork errors to derail transfers. In response, the systems were modernized to prevent such failures. In a strange way, the De Gea transfer that never happened accelerated football's digital revolution. De Gea's failed transfer is not the only example of football's unpredictability. Adrian Silva's move to Leicester City in 2017 collapsed because the paperwork was submitted 14 seconds after the deadline. The midfielder was left in limbo for months, unable to play competitive matches. In 2013, Peter Odemwingie drove to Queen's Park Rangers training ground on deadline day, only to discover the transfer had not been agreed. He was humiliated on live television, becoming a symbol of desperation. Yet none of these compare to the scale of De Gea's saga. The stakes were higher, the clubs bigger, the player more important. This was not just a failed transfer, it was a collision of giants. Manchester United and Real Madrid, two of the most powerful clubs in the world, were brought down not by money or politics, but by minutes on a clock. The parallels highlight how fragile football deals can be and how a single moment can rewrite history. The story leaves us with tantalizing questions. What if De Gea had joined Real Madrid in 2015? Would he have thrived in the white shirt, lifting Champions League trophies alongside Cristiano Ronaldo, Luka Modric, and Sergio Ramos? Or would his limitations with the ball at his feet have seen him discarded, as Madrid eventually favored goalkeepers like Courtois? For Manchester United, keeping De Gea ensured stability in the post-Ferguson wilderness. Though the club failed to challenge consistently for titles, they always had a world-class goalkeeper. For fans, De Gea became a symbol of loyalty, even if his stay was forced by circumstance. In interviews years later, he called Manchester home, a testament to the bond forged through adversity. Real Madrid moved on, building a new dynasty with Courtois. But even today, when fans recall the summer of 2015, the question lingers. What if? Football is full of what-ifs, but few are as dramatic as a deal collapsing because of paperwork. In the end, perhaps the broken fax machine was not a malfunction, but a twist of fate. De Gea stayed at United, where he became a legend. Madrid avoided a deal that may not have suited them long-term, and football gained one of its most bizarre, unforgettable stories. The transfer that never happened remains etched in history, a reminder that even in a sport of billions, destiny can hinge on the smallest of details.